from Temple Emeth in Teaneck, New Jersey. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to our service here at Temple Emeth in Teaneck, and we welcome many of our members into the sanctuary. So good to see you all on this beautiful Shabbat evening. Rabbi Serbiu is away this weekend, and I am thrilled to welcome some special guests to our bima to help lead us in prayer and song. At the rabbi's podium this evening, we have Arnie Graber playing the role of the rabbi. And this evening, I'm thrilled to welcome Wendy Kosakoff, who will be playing guitar and singing with me and leading some of the beautiful music of our service. And as always, the incredible, the wonderful, the amazing Tom Mustachio at the keys. Wow, Tom is getting applause here in the sanctuary. For those of you joining us on live stream, we will be using Mishkan Tefillah. Here it is. And you can take a moment right now and bring your prayer book to the screen. If you don't have a copy, you can access one, preferably on a second device, or if you have 3 devices, heck, access 2. And you can look up the part that says live stream page at emeth.org/livestream and scroll down to the section that says access the prayer book. Who am I kidding? We've been doing this for like a year now. At least most of you at home know how to do this. Mishkan Tefillah, the page numbers will be shown on your screen. Everybody is invited to sing along in prayer and worship with us. We're going to begin our service this evening with the lighting of our Shabbat candles, and that can be found on page 120 in your prayer book. And I call upon Mark Chelmer, who will be saying the candle blessing this evening. You do. Go for it. You're just having underscore. That's all. Okay. So then Arnie's going to give you his prayer book so you can read on page 121.
There we go. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak tonight into our hearts and into our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Please join me on page 120. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. At this time, it's a great time to bring your Kiddush cup to the screen if you're at home. And here, I'm going to ask you to rise for Kiddush, which can be found on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kadsho, be'ahava uvratzon, inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki vanu vacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kadshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Please be seated. Thank you, Mark. We're going to continue now. I'll invite Arnie up.
We continue now with our opening song, L'cha Dodi, on page 138.
And we're going to do verses 1, 4, 5, and 9. And when we get to verse 9, I'll ask you to rise and face the entrance to our sanctuary to welcome the Sabbath bride.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה
Please be seated.
We continue on the bottom of page 141. Adonai is sovereign. God is robed in grandeur. Adonai is robed. God is girded with strength. The world stands firm. It cannot be shaken. The next two lines we read together. Your throne stands firm from of old. From eternity you have existed. The ocean sounds, Adonai. The ocean sounds its thunder. The ocean sounds its pounding. Above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea, is Adonai, majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring. Holiness befits your house, Adonai, for all times.
Page 144, Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadosh, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Rutei v'yamlich mochutei, L'chayechon, L'yomechon, L'chayei, T'kol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, U'vizman kariv, V'yimiru, Amen, Yehi Shmei Rabbah mivarach, Le'olam olam me'olam haya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitbar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitoleh, V'yitolal, Shemei Kedusha b'richu, Leila min kol mechata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata, Tamiran be'alma, V'yimiru, Amen.
Please rise if you are able for the Baruch on page 146. We continue at the top of page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma poteach sha'atim, uvifamne nishyana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsadir et hakochavim, b'mishmerotechem baraka kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshek, v'choshek mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Page 150. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol lebavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'otecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam Ve'shivtecha bebeitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha ve'ayu letotafot beineinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tizkiru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai Vitem kedoshim le'Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
The top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
La 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 ונאמר כי דבר אדוני תקוף ולא מחזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
At the top of page 161, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, apotei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amu Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ביני
Please rise for the tefillah, beginning on page 164.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim, Tovim v'Gonei, Akol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, V'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer, U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Akol Atarav le'Oshia, Mashiv Haruach U'Marid Hagashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei Akol Berachamim Rabim, Samech Noflim Berofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umikayem Emunata Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Balgvurot, Umidam Halach, Melech Memit Umchayeh, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'nemanata Lachayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Michayei Akol. Atah Kadosh v'Shmecha Kadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom yehallelu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el Akadosh.
Please be seated. We continue at the top of page 179. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We pause now for silent prayer. You can either pray as prompted in the heart or find alternative readings on pages 180 and 181. We continue now with our Torah service, beginning on page 363. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God.
Please be seated. Sorry. Okay. Okay, you're up. Okay, have a seat. Arnie's going to speak for a second, okay?
This week's Torah portion, Vayigash, is about Joseph's reunion with his brothers and father in Egypt. As Jews, we know very well how this is going to work out. We are born with a sense of fatalism. God knows we have enough jokes about expecting the worst. And we know all about Egypt. It's the bad place where we were slaves, the place where God had to remember us after 400 years of oppression. Egypt is hell. We just read a prayer on page 157 that said so. And we know that the most important thing that will ever happen in Egypt is our leaving that terrible place. The Exodus is, after all, the foundational event of the Jewish nation. But let's remember first the circumstances of our ancestors leading up to the events of Vayigash. Joseph's brothers hate him for his youthful arrogance and maybe selfishness. So at Judah's suggestion, they sell him into slavery. Jacob, at age 130, is a faltering old man whose family is coming apart and who lives in a permanent state of mourning, believing that Joseph, his favorite, is dead. And Canaan, the so-called promised land, is a wasteland ruined by famine. With that in mind, here is the URJ summary of what happens in Vayigash, with annotations. Judah pleads with Joseph to free Benjamin from imprisonment and offers himself as a replacement. Joseph reveals himself to his brothers and forgives them for selling him into slavery. Although the famine still rages, Pharaoh invites Joseph's family to, and I quote, live off the fat of the land. Jacob learns that Joseph is still alive and, with God's blessing, goes to Egypt, which is no small or easy journey. Pharaoh permits Joseph's family to settle in Goshen, which Pharaoh calls, quoting again, the best part of the land. Pharaoh then meets with Jacob. And when was the last time your boss met with one of your parents? With the famine increasing, Joseph designs a plan for the Egyptians to trade their livestock and land for food. The Israelites thrive in Egypt. To summarize the summary, Judah is compassionate, eloquent, and heroic. Joseph is humble and forgiving. Jacob is vibrant and sees his family come back together. Pharaoh is welcoming and generous. The effects of famine are averted. God actually says to Jacob at chapter 46, verse 3, "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great people there." The portion concludes at chapter 47, verse 27, Israel thus settled in the land of Egypt, in the region of Goshen. They struck roots in it, were fruitful, and multiplied greatly. Love abounds and all is well. To the modern reader, there's something discordant about all this. As Jews, we know fatalism, and we know that every silver lining is surrounded by a cloud. We know how this story ends. We know the move to Egypt will turn out badly for the Israelites. The surprising thing about Vayigash is that in this part of the story, things are going so well. Given our Jewish tendency for pessimism, and knowing these conditions won't last, it's worth asking these two questions. Why do things end up going so badly later on? And why do they go so well in Vayigash? I suggest that both questions have the same very simple answer. It's because different people are in charge. It's easy to recognize this in the story of slavery and oppression still to come. There will arise a new Pharaoh who knows not Joseph, nor will Joseph or Jacob or Judah be around. That's the difference between an Egypt of salvation and a nightmare Egypt. Completely different people. But the subtler answer in Vayigash is that the people in charge here are also different. Joseph, Judah, and Jacob are the principal Israelite actors in this episode of our people's history. But they are not the Joseph, Judah, and Jacob we read about in previous Genesis parshas. Their prior versions were really not very attractive people. Jacob was the conniver who cheated his brother. Judah was a man of questionable morals. And Joseph, as a teenager, was your basic adolescent jerk. But that was then, and this is now. They too are different people. As economical, that is, sparse, as the biblical narrative is in its details, we see them change. And although in parshas to come in the book of Exodus, the different people we'll regard as strangers will be responsible for our troubles, before we get there, as we know we will, we realize that, like our ancestors, we ourselves have a capacity to become and be different people for the better. Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah reading begins Genesis chapter 44, chapter 44, verse 18. If you're looking at the original Torah commentaries that we have, the first edition plouts that are in the sanctuary, we're starting on page 281. If you have the revised Torah commentary, we're beginning on page 287.
Okay, guys, come on up. Thanks, Arnie. That was awesome. Okay. Hold here. And ready? Go ahead. Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayigash elav Yehuda vayomer bi Adoni yidaber na avdecha davar beoznei Adoni ve'el yichar apcha ve'avdecha ki kamocha kifaro. Adoni sha'al et avadav lemor hayesh lachem av o ach vanomer el Adoni yesh lanu av zakein v'yilad zakenim katan ve'achiv meit v'yivaterhu levado Lemor v'aviva hevod.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, you guys have a seat behind me. At this time, we're going to continue with the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing, keeping in mind those who are suffering emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I ask anyone here in the sanctuary, if they have a name they'd like to share, to do so either out loud or in their heart. And if you're at home and you'd like to put a name in the chat, you can do so at this time. And I remind you all, it's okay to say your own name. And as we sing Misha Berach, which can be found on page 371 in your prayer book, you will see the names of those that the congregation is thinking of on your screen. And we add to that list Laura Malley.
Who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. with refuge lema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Please rise for the lifting and dressing of the Torah.
Closed? Okay, hold on, I have to tighten it.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We remain standing at this time as we continue with the Aleinu. Sorry, Arnie, I stepped on your line. We continue with the Aleinu, page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latein gdula liotzer bereshit shelo asanu kiguyei haratzot velo samanu kimishpachot adama shelo sam chalkeinu kahem v'kar aleinu kichol amanam v'anachnu koreim umishtachavim umodim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Shemo, Shemo.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them now, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of those at this time for whom we are observing Shloshim, the 30 days after their passing. We think of Lonnie Rubenstein, remembered by Eleanor Bookbinder, Marjorie Zach, Temple member and mother of Susan Bresnick, Marlene Denner, Joe Katz, remembered by Fran LaBarbera, Jonathan Stavis, remembered by Sheldon Bernstein, Sheena Redmond, remembered by Sheldon Bernstein, and Lawrence Shongut, brother-in-law of Nancy Miller Kazaradsky. We also think of those for whom we are observing Yahrzeit, the anniversary of their passing. We think of Merwin Abrams, Bernice Beldock, Melvin Breyer, Edith Berkman, Martin Berman, Nathan Cohen, Howard K. Davis, Morris Farkas, Helen Fierstein, Esther Gelbhart, Reba Gelbstein, Jacob Gerber, Philip Gold, Benjamin Goldberg, Rosalind Grossman, Dorothy Gewert, Dorothy Gerwitt, Shirley Heller, Max Hertz, Lena Hirsch, Myrna Rosenthal Lefauci, Norman Landau, Ray Lifshitz, Sophie B. Lifshitz, Esther Lund, Sid Miller, Annie Putnam, Lloyd N. Robinson, Marjorie Claire Roth, Josephine S. Sanders, Minnie Corin Schwartzberg, Sam Shapiro, Teresa Sidran, Benjamin Skolnick, Joan Spiegel, Barbara Strausman, Morris Swedlow, and Ernest Wilmers. We think of all of them. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we join together on page 598 in the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divarach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'galau v'zman kariv v'imru amen, Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to those of you who are in mourning, comforting you with all of the bereaved amongst the house of Israel, as together we say, Amen. Please be seated.
It's my pleasure now to introduce a member of our Board of Trustees, our Treasurer, Gary Richards, with tonight's announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
As a member of the Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Shabbat Evening Services. Although our annual bazaar has been postponed into the spring, our own Eva Tobias has brought her popular booth online this winter. You can check out Eva's selection of bracelets, earrings, necklaces, and more, or simply make an end-of-year donation to the temple. For details and access information, visit emeth.org or see your weekly email. The auction runs through December 18th. Please plan to attend our One Book, One Synagogue Shabbaton on Saturday, January 8th. The program will include a special Torah study, a Kiddush lunch, and a concert by Tom Mustachio of music by composers mentioned in the book. Please look for an upcoming email with additional details. And we got to thank this evening's volunteers in the live stream control room. That's Amanda Eastman and Pauline Hecht are at the controls tonight. Again, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much, Gary.
And now our grand finale. Cantor will lead us in a closing song.
Our closing song can be found on page 643 in your prayer book. We read the words of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who said, "All of the world is a narrow bridge, and the most important thing is not to be afraid." So, interesting translation here. The most important thing is not to be afraid. In the Hebrew, it says, Lo lefached klal, don't be afraid at all. Don't be afraid of anything. So it's a nice poetic English translation, but it's even more powerful in the Hebrew words that we're going to share now. Don't be afraid at all. And so it acknowledges that we are all sometimes afraid of something, but that God is guiding us across that narrow bridge and bringing people into our lives to support us in those times that we need them most. And so it is important to remember that we don't have to be afraid. Once again, page 643.
Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od, gesher tsar me'od, gesher tsar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od, gesher tsar me'od.
Wonderful people that shared the bima with me this evening. First of all, Arnie Graber Wow. You're awesome. You're Rabbi Barbie. I mean, you really did everything. Thank you, Arnie, so much. I really, really appreciate it. It's lovely sharing the Bima with you. And your Dvar Torah was amazing and wonderful. And I want to thank Tom Mustachio, as always, and every week. We're so lucky to have him here. What a blessing. And my dear friend and amazing musician, Wendy Kosakoff. Thank you for being here and beautifying our service. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a service which is going to be 99% chanted, all in Hebrew. That's our service that we do when the rabbi's away. It's lots of fun. Everyone gets to sing along. And I will share the Bima in the morning with Amanda Eastman, which I'm looking forward to. And I want to say to everyone here, you should have a wonderful, peaceful, and beautiful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.